Army Men Sarge's War is an action-packed third-person shooter with a simple but deep story that took me about 8 hours to beat on the normal difficulty, and I have almost nothing but praise for this game. A quick note, I played this on Xbox 360 and saw no option for a widescreen television setting. My apologies. This was the last true Army Men game, if I'm not mistaken, not counting Soldiers of Misfortune, and it was also the only game in the series I have played. A little odd to accidentally start a series on the last game, but it was great start to finish. And it's kinda sad this series never saw another real game in it. The game is spread out between 11 levels, 12 if you count the final boss, and each level is spread out between 3 to 5 sections, holding a checkpoint at each section. At the end of each level, the player is shown their statistics, how long the level took time-wise, the amount of enemies and friendlies killed, and how many times the player died, in addition to any medals earned. This game does have one annoying quirk, which is no level select after you've beaten the game, an option I'd really like to have. That being said, levels 1 to 7 were pretty much a breeze, but levels 8 to 12 the difficulty really got cranked up, and careful planning was required to progress after level 7. You couldn't just rush in and shoot everything, as tougher enemies and environmental hazards were placed and with greater numbers as the game progressed, all the way up to the final boss fight, which was awesome, where you got swarmed with popcorn enemies and fought Malice, the main villain of the game. The story was simple, but deep. I won't spoil the ending, but it starts off with Sarge's heroes, his girlfriend, and a decent chunk of the Green Army being killed at a fake peace treaty signing between the Green and Tan Army, and Sarge going on a personal vengeance mission for justice and to put an end to Malice. What made this event even sadder was that the Tan Army officer sent to sign the treaty actually thought it was real, meaning he thought he could finally see peace, only to be killed in the explosion along with Sarge's heroes. As you can see gameplay-wise, it's a third-person shooter, and it had a lot of weapon and enemy variety. But as the game progressed, you A. stopped finding ammo for early game weapons, and B. said weapons became less effective over time as enemies increased in difficulty, and by the end of the game you could only really use the machine gun, flamethrower, and sniper rifle. One downside to the weapon variety was you had to cycle through weapons until you found the one you wanted, which could be a little challenging during a heavy combat encounter if you're caught off guard. Enemies range from weak foot soldiers to later on enemies that had a ton of health and heavy weaponry, and even annoying enemies with cloaking devices who could only effectively be killed with explosives or the flamethrower. A negative for this game is the camera angles and weapon lock-on system. Sometimes they would just randomly flip out, and I died several times because the lock-on system decided to aim at a wall behind me instead of the enemy right in front of me. Annoying, but the fun outweighed this occasional inconvenience. Performance-wise, other than some very minor glitches, it ran just fine. The only real glitches were occasionally tan soldiers would randomly start spinning in place, or there would be an enemy shadow lingering after I'd already killed the tan soldier who it belonged to. Other than these very minor glitches, no complaints there. Graphics-wise, I can't say it was the best looking Xbox original game out there, but it looks pretty good I think, and the soundtrack was cool. This game did have an online multiplayer mode, but it was shut down who knows how long ago, so no comment on it. Overall, Army Men Sarge's War was really a blast and I enjoyed playing it. And who knows, maybe one day someone will reboot the series. But for now, I give this retro title a 9 out of 10 by my grade scale. Used copies aren't too pricey if you want to check it out, and I know it was also released on the PS2 and Nintendo GameCube should you not have an Xbox. Well, that's all for today, y'all. For those new here, I mostly play, review, and discuss zombie and horror games on my channel, with occasional other topics like today, so maybe check out some of my other videos if that sounds interesting. Always remember that Jesus loves you. Thanks for watching. Peace.